Hello, good morning everybody, and thank you for joining our second webinar for ICTFOOTPRINT.eu. My name's Silvana Masella. I shall be moderating today's webinar, which is on tools and services for energy management. Now, in our webinar today, we have myself, I'm the founder and CEO of Trust IT Services, and the coordinator of the ICT Footprint initiative, which I'll mention to you in a second. But please let me introduce our esteemed speakers for our webinar today. We have Jaak Vlasveld, who will be our first speaker. He's the director of GreenIT Amsterdam, and GreenIT's mission is to scout, test and showcase innovative IT solutions for increasing energy efficiency and decreasing carbon emissions. He's recently been involved in greening IT, and he'll be giving us some great case studies on some energy efficiency examples happening in Amsterdam. Our second esteemed speaker is Rahib Bashroush, who is the coordinator of the Eureca project, which is a Horizon 2020, I believe, project. It is a Horizon, isn't it? Yes, not an FP7. And he is a reader at the University of East London and director of the Enterprise Computing Research Group. His main interests are in cloud computing and energy efficiency in data centers, and he serves on various data center standardization and expert working groups. And his overview today will be an exciting insert of what's happening and some results around the Eureca tools. So before we go over to our speakers, I just want to have a quick zooming in on ICT Footprint. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, we basically want to bring together the European public and private sector to get them understanding more about their energy, how they can be more energy efficient, especially in their ICT areas of work. I'm kicking off with this map that we've just introduced onto the website, ICTFOOTPRINT.eu. It's an interactive map of all the ICT methodologies that have come out through various initiatives and standards groups that you can actually click on and learn more information about. And you can understand the details and see how you can adopt these in some of your processes. So ICT Footprint is in a nutshell is that we want to be at the end of our 3-year duration. We're in our first year only. We want to raise awareness on metrics, methodologies, and best practices. And we're going to do this by introducing a series of tools and services within our project. Our stakeholders are specific. They could be ICT-intensive SMEs, suppliers, buyers, cities, and public administrations, and clearly our SDOs. Our main goal is basically to help raise awareness on these ICT methodologies that I've mentioned before, and to help with actionable actions with tools to make people, through informative material, help promote their green strategies. We want to build an aggregated community, and so people come on board, use self-assessment tools where they can see how these ICT methodologies can make a difference in their workplace. And then our web platform, ICTFootprint.eu, is going to serve as a service area, targeting more specifically our private sector and our engaged SMEs and other industries, and help them make informed decisions around assessing their carbon and energy footprint. And with that, they're going to help share their experiences with others. And that's one of the reasons why we're holding these webinars like this. So both Jaak and Rahib are able to disclose their experiences and what their results are actually producing in terms of their efforts they're doing and how they're then going to market. So our main outputs, and then we can you can go onto the website to find more information around this. At the end of the 3 years, we're going to have a consolidated marketplace made up of both buyers and sellers, those who can find sustainable ICT suppliers and publish their ICT needs, and sellers who have wonderful ICT sustainable services, and procurement, and they can search for clients there. We'll be doing a number of these webinars to get people more knowledgeable around these areas of interest. We're going to have a help desk delivered in 5 languages to actually provide free support on how to decrease your carbon footprint. We're going to deliver a series of success stories because our policy is if I can learn from someone who's doing it better than I am, then that clearly is a success factor. And then by the end of the year, we're already working on some self-assessment tools where you can measure your own carbon footprint and learn how to become sustainable. Thanks back to the ICT standards and methodologies that I mentioned earlier on at the beginning of the webinar. So with that, so the webinar is being presented to you under the umbrella, if you like, of ICT Footprint. Now, our esteemed speakers are also members of our external expert advisory group of ICT Footprint. So we have a group of experts who we tap into and who are in the field and give us updated information as soon as they have it. So with that, I'm going to go over directly now to Jaak Vlasveld, who is the Director of GreenIT Amsterdam, who will be on the floor now. Over to you, Jaak. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this excellent introduction. Let me start with going a little bit back to what exactly we are talking about. We're talking about sustainability of ICT, and this ICT all runs in servers. They are a large collection of machines generating heat, using electricity, and processing data. And these servers, they are typically inside server rooms or in data centers. They are large buildings that are equipped specifically to host these servers, or they are rooms inside a building. So sometimes we wonder what's exactly the difference between a server room or a data center. And I've been told by my colleagues that sometimes the only difference is that you're actually very proud of your data center. So if you are very proud of your server room, typically you also call it your data center. Then again, there are lots of different sizes from 1 rack or 2 racks to thousands of square meters. These buildings are equipped with infrastructure to keep the servers cool and to keep them running and to keep them safe. This is all very necessary, and especially the power supply, and I want to mention this specifically in every data center. The first thing you care about is continuity. It has to be running. It cannot be interrupted ever. So that's where our applications are hosted. And the second very interesting characteristic is that ICT is actually everywhere. It's at the heart of everything that we do. It's driving most businesses. And this ubiquitous presence is growing and growing and growing. So it's ICT used to be part of how you do your administration. It started supporting the delivery of new services, and now actually with the smart city activities, ICT is the key driver of improving our quality of life. That means we have to look at sustainability, not only from the environmental perspective, but firstly, green skills as well. If IT is everywhere, you have to be sure that energy consumption is not going to be a limiting factor. Secondly, resources are depleting. We have to anticipate on that, and that's why we have to start working on reducing energy consumption, and where possible, use more renewable energies. And last but not least, each investment, you have to earn it back. And with sustainability investments, this is typically relatively easy to do. So why are we currently focusing in this webcast on the IT load itself? That's because, well, it's a very large part, of course, the entire energy consumption. The focus used to be very strongly on cooling your data center. That's when the overhead of running servers was actually larger than the energy being consumed by the servers themselves. This is starting to change. So we see that the overhead in cooling is decreasing, and we see that as a direct effect, the share of the IT load itself on the total energy consumption of running IT applications is getting bigger and bigger. That doesn't mean we have to stop focusing on cooling. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking at using renewable energy sources or reusing the heat that comes out of your servers. But it does mean that a more significant amount of our time and money and focus is being spent on optimizing the IT load itself. Thank you, Robbie, for borrowing this slide to me.
Jack, sorry, I'm just interrupting briefly. One of our listeners is having difficulty listening to you. Could you possibly get closer to the microphone so they can get and grasp everything you're saying?
That's better now?
That's better.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
And as an overview, we had this previous slide, right? It's the energy loss chain. You see that everywhere along this chain you lose energy. So if energy comes from the electricity grid to your data center, you lose energy. If it goes to your server in your rack, you lose energy. And actually, the amount of energy being consumed directly by your CPU is maybe 1% of the amount of energy that has to be generated in a power plant. So if you reduce this, the amount of CPUs, clock ticks that you need for your application, then it's a very large gain. Move to the next slide. I will give you an example of how the optimization over this entire chain is being approached in one of the projects that has been running in the Amsterdam region for the last years. It's the GreenIT the Cloud project. It's finished. Currently, it's being wrapped up. And you can see the results of this project at the website greeningthecloud.nl. It has some excellent reports. The structure that we used for assessing sustainability of an entire application is the Greening the Cloud stack, the Green Cloud stack, which is developed mostly by the Software Improvement Group, where you optimize not only the individual components, but you see them in relation to each other. And for each of them, you have simple rules to keep in mind. So for your data center infrastructure, you keep reducing the overhead. So less energy needed for cooling is better. For compute hardware, you have to ensure that you use that hardware that has the largest compute output per energy. You could look at, for example, your hardware refresh rate, where you buy new hardware not only because it's faster, but also because it uses less energy, and in the end, then your IT infrastructure, your IT facilities are cheaper. Your servers are cheaper too. Running your servers costs energy, and as a rule of thumb, if you buy new servers every 3 years, you earn back the investment in the servers by lower energy bills and lower maintenance bills, etc. For example, cloud providers or other users of IT that have a very high utilization rate, you can typically refresh your hardware faster. That brings us to the third layer of your cloud stack, the virtualization layer. Servers run at a very low utilization, or at least they often do. It means that if you have a server that's running at 10 or 15% of your capacity, you're again wasting a lot of this energy. So if you can increase this to a very large percentage, and actually 60% utilization is quite good. That means that you use less hardware. And that means that you use your hardware more effectively. And last, the top part of the stack is the application layer itself. Of course, it makes sense that if you don't have to use an application, you shouldn't be using it. And if your application can use less resources, it should be using less resources. It's it's very interesting to see this stack, but it's also very important to keep in mind that sub-optimization will not bring you the biggest gain. If you optimize one part, you should also go back to the other parts and iterate. And to do this in practice, we have been working with testing environments. Several reasons for using a testing environment. For example, the first one is before you make any changes, you have to make sure that the change works. And secondly, if you have your own testing environment, it's not very likely that this testing environment is equipped to measure energy consumption of your application. But if you do equip it for measuring energy consumption, you're very likely to see patterns that you haven't thought of before. I will give you examples of the testing environment that we've been using. It's the SEF lab, the Software Energy Efficiency Lab. It's an actual physical hardware lab located at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences and the VU University of Amsterdam. The goal of this lab is to develop knowledge, to share this knowledge about the relation between energy consumption of hardware and the software that controls the hardware. So we measure the service, they measure the service, and they develop the expertise that can be applied to different scenarios. And this SEF lab is being operated from a green lab. So that's here. The green lab is an institution at the VU University of Amsterdam that uses the hardware lab as one of its facilities for doing new research, to develop new ways of improving energy efficiency, or educating the next wave of people that will be using our IT, and to develop new practices and to test new practices that can be applied by companies, by governments, and actually by anyone who owns or operates IT equipment or IT facilities. And this is one of the examples that was developed by this SEF lab, in cooperation with various companies in the Amsterdam region. Simple database optimization, and it's a very good illustration of why you should use testing environment and what benefit of shared testing environment. It's just simple optimization. Remove one part of a query. This is calculated again and again and again. So if this query can be optimized, then there is the potential for saving energy. And this is the question that was being explored in this setting. I think there are not that many companies that would try this themselves. But if someone else is willing to try this for you, because they are developing new expertise, etc., and you can apply this practice in your company, then there's the potential for energy saving. Well, this has been tested. And a simple optimization of removing the ordering clause resulted in a 3% power savings. That means that the peak power consumption when running this query is lower. 25% energy savings. That means that not only the power is lower, it's only 3% lower. The running time of the query has been decreased dramatically. The point with this example is that it's a simple optimization that you're not likely to test yourself. Running it in a lab setting, so by using tooling support, you could see that this is something that you would actually want to do in practice if you were running someone else's application or developing your own. Another example, we all know that content management systems are excellent in practice to create your website. They also have a lot of overhead. And this is an example, the top layer of the green cloud stack, the application layer, in cooperation with the virtualization layer. So in this test, the company Cobra Systems and the VU University, they actually changed two things. One, they replaced the content management system with a static web page, That means less database calls and well, less overhead. And 2, they performed this test on a web server running on 2 different virtual machines to test if the virtual machine was impacting the energy consumption and the power consumption. The result is yes, one of the virtual machines used less power, and yes, the static web page has a significant lower amount of energy being consumed. Well, the point of this case is, of course, quite clear, right? Reduce the overhead in your application. It's good to know that the numbers are there. It does make sense to pursue this direction. Simplify your web pages does save energy. Third case, I have 4 cases. This is the third case I'll be presenting. Is about the power management features that are present in almost all of our servers today. If you receive a server from your factory, it doesn't really matter which brand or which processor. It's equipped with power management functionality. It's the functionality that says, okay, processor, you're not doing anything useful. You should be using less energy currently, and then switches the processor to a different mode. This is one type of power management feature. What we've seen in practice is that the servers arrive from the factory with the energy with the power management features switched on. When the servers are taken into operation, they are switched off. And the reason for doing this is that the IT manager perhaps had bad experience with similar features in the past, or because he doesn't know how it will impact running his application. We learned that in most situations, actually in all situations that we tested, it's perfectly safe to switch on the power management features. And actually, it can result in increased energy efficiency without significantly impacting performance. So that means that if you tell your CPU to switch back to a power savings mode when it doesn't do any significant amount of work, it doesn't take extra time for it to switch back to the higher performance mode. And that's also good to know, of course, because if you pay for a server to run at high capacity, you want it to run at high capacity. However, saving 20% of energy is also saving another money in your energy bill. The key takeaway from this case, if you have any doubts whether or not you should be running power management features, first check if you are running them. Secondly, test whether or not it's safe and whether or not your performance is impacted. Third, just simply go and enable it and report on the effect. Because that's a third, that's an additional takeaway from this case. Surfsara implemented this best practice, and they were going to go ahead and continue to the next opportunity for them to save energy until they talked to one of my colleagues. And together they decided that it would actually make sense to write down the results of applying this best practice and sharing it with the rest of the world. We did that, and by doing that, we convinced several other organizations to also adopt this good practice, which wouldn't have happened if they simply continued to performing their next, applying the next best practice themselves. So we were very happy that they were willing to take the time to share this. Last example, this is an operation of quite some larger scale. These are some numbers from the consolidation project that's still running for the Dutch National Cloud. All IT applications from public services in the Netherlands are, well, of course, running in public data centers. either in-house or hosted at commercial locations. They were hosted in 64 locations. And as part of a budget reduction strategy, the government set out to reduce this to 4 data center locations. As a side effect, a dramatic increase of energy efficiency from a total 235 gigawatt hours to 128. This takes quite some time. It's still work in progress. And good to know about this project is that it's not only a consolidation of data centers, it's actually also a full stack approach. So the number of data centers are reduced, the infrastructure and the platforms are all being shared and as a service being made available to the different departments. They're of course applying best practices like new ways of cooling, actually refurbishing an old building that might have been decommissioned if it wouldn't have been repurposed to being a data center. So I'm actually quite proud that they took the effort to do that. It's a beautiful building, and now it's a beautiful data center. The reuse of heat, and of course virtualization, which is one of the biggest gains you can have. Sadly, I'm not able to share the results of a new project that one of the consortium, one of the participants to the consortium GreenIT Amsterdam has been running. The results will be published soon, but you will see that by sharing the applications between different departments and by virtualizing the hardware that's hosting these applications, you can have similar results in energy efficiency increase. It's in the 10s and 20s of percent up to 40%. Right, so these were the examples. We had some takeaways from this. First, we see that as soon as you start separating the different concerns, so one partner is responsible for the housing, another for the service, etc., and you optimize costs, increase of energy efficiency is almost a natural side effect. However, by taking the full stack approach and by anticipating and responding to optimizations at different layers of the stack, you can further increase energy efficiency. And to do this in practice, you need to test, you need to validate your results, share the results so others can replicate them. We're very happy for the ICTFOOTPRINT project to set up this platform for sharing these good practices. We think this is one of the biggest drivers of energy efficiency that we will see. And also the approach to calculate your energy savings to support people in finding the right knowledge and the right know-how to adopt and implement these best practices. That's something very novel. And there's actually 2 projects supporting this. One is the ICTFOOTPRINT project. The other one is the Eureca project. Rahib will tell you everything about that. And the final takeaway is it might not be the natural thing to do for an organization running its IT department, but if you work with a university, if you work with a lab, you will get the right tools to implement good practices in a safe way that does not impact your operations, or at least has minimal impact on operations. This was my last slide. Then I think there's a question from the audience.
Thank you very much, Jaak. Yes, thank you for that presentation. Very stimulating. I have some questions. We're going to leave them till the end after Rahib's intervention as well. But I think we should take this question online already, as it's fresh. From Mark, the question is, was the gain in Dutch National Cloud really due to consolidation or by the use of modernized servers with better power performance?
May I? Yeah,
Sorry,
Do you,
yeah?
do, do you want me? Sorry, it's Robbie here because I've had exposure to the case study and we've looked at the numbers when we were in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
And I
Rahib.
think, so I can answer that question, and I can say that the savings were actually largely due to the consolidation exercise, because so far I think what some agencies and government agencies have done, they've brought in their existing servers, and yet they have achieved major energy savings. So I can say that for that exercise, actually, the savings that have been achieved so far were largely due to consolidation and not having modernized servers. Do you want to add something?
That's to say, yes, I would like to add something. The numbers are actually quite interesting. There was another effect that could be seen in the numbers, and that's about the virtualization itself. So there was an increase in CPU utilization, and I think the numbers that I presented were an increase from 10-15% to 40-50%.
Sure.
And this is the perfect example of why you have to look at the full stack, right? So the consolidation cannot be seen separately from the virtualization. However, going back to the question, yes, I think, Rabi, your answer was completely spot on.
Yeah, and your point is right about consolidation as well. I mean, when you consolidate, you're saving a lot on the infrastructure elements as well, and a lot of other ecological things, if you don't want to go in details. But that doesn't mean as well. I mean, that means as well there's plenty to be saved in terms of modernizing servers. And this could easily take us into a different discussion about what gains are we talking about. Is it increase in PUE? Because modernizing servers would not be captured by the PUE. But that's a different discussion anyway.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you, Jaak. Very stimulating presentation. We'll come back to you with a couple of questions at the end. With that, then, let's go move forward to our second speaker. Thank you for the question. And please do exploit the question opportunity on Bright Talk. Obviously, we'll pick them all up before our hour's up. Dr. Rahib Bashroush is next up, who will be giving his intervention on supporting environmentally sound ICT procurement in the public sector, the Eureca project. Now, you have hands-on with the slides now that you can take forward. Rahib, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Silvana. Thank you very much as well, Jaak, for the very interesting talk. So if you, good morning or good afternoon if you're Central Europe. If you've been listening to the slides so far, and please let me know if you can't hear me. If you've been listening to the slides so far, you probably have noticed already there are quite a few standards there, and I think that the guys at ICTFOOTPRINT have done a very nice job of bringing them together into a map. And then you've probably seen in Jaak's slide there are plenty of nice technical things you could do to increase your energy efficiency. There's a lot of opportunities you could gain from, but also how do you do that? I mean, if you're not technical, probably that would have been overwhelming. And this is why the Eureca project was funded, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. So this is a quick overview of my presentation. We'll just review why energy efficiency is important, and I will summarize some of the challenges when it comes to public procurement of energy efficient data center products and services. And then I'll tell you about the Eureca project, what it is, how you can benefit from it and use it, and how we could work together. To start with, why worry in the first place about energy efficiency? So I'll summarize it on the three main headers. And the first one, I mean, is general knowledge now. It's widely agreed upon now that ICT is consuming large amount of electricity. I think the figure out there is now, this couple of years ago now, it's 3% of world electricity is being used by data centers. And for ICT overall, the figure is 10%. There was a recent report a year or so ago from Japan where they predicted if the current trends continue as they are, then by 2030 all their energy production will be consumed by ICT. So the current trends simply are not sustainable. And if you take into consideration the cloud and consolidation, the Internet of Things, and the social media, the demand is also exponentially growing. So the current trends are not sustainable. Nicholas, there's a question there. And by all means, please, if you ask questions, I'll see them and I'll answer them. So feel free to ask questions. And Nicholas, this question would be probably for Silvana. If he's asking if he can get the slides afterwards, I'm sure you could. Yeah. Okay. So the other area is if the environmental impact is not enough. I mean, I didn't mention as well that it's been said that carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions from data centers exceeds the entire aviation industry. But if that's not enough alone as well, there's the government pressure. So in the UK, we had this 80% energy consumption reduction target by 2050 compared to 1990. At the EU level, we have 20% reduction target by 2020, and actually this has been revised up. And this will only translate to more and more regulatory pressures to encourage the uptake of more energy efficient products and services. And the third one, and the less obvious one in many cases, is the financial incentive. So, I mean, this figure is from UK universities. There was a report in 2012 produced by JISC that estimated that the energy consumption, the energy bill for UK universities was around £90 million. And that figure was 30% increase on the figure from 5 years before, I think 2008. So nowadays, probably the figure is way into £100 million. So there is 60% of this was on service. There's a substantial opportunity there to save money. And in data centers, if you're a data center operator, you probably know very well that one of your biggest OPEX expenses is the energy bill. Now, why the focus on public sector? Simply because of the potential impact. I mean, the project was funded to support the public sector, although all our products and services can be applied anywhere. But simply because of the potential impact. If this figure is from 2013, the public sector spending was 2.2 trillion euros, and that was 19% of GDP. So savings there could have a direct impact within the public sector and as well as on the upstream and downstream supply chain. Okay, so the project has been running for around 18 months, and so far we've worked with various public sectors across Europe, and when it comes to procuring energy-efficient ICT products and services, we can summarize these under three main headers. Okay, the first one is the complexity and legal uncertainty. Okay, in the public sector and many organizations, you have too many stakeholders, some of them sadly with competing objectives. You have a lot of frameworks you might be committed to, procurement frameworks. You have decentralization. You have various legislations and regulations to have to abide to. And the result is procurers favor past practices. They just go the safer. They don't want to venture and take risks. So that's one area, one of the main challenges. Another area is the insufficient priority. And here, I mean, if you take any service, the public sector service, if you take the one we see here in the background, air traffic controls or police, etc., their electricity bill wouldn't be more than 2-3% of their overall budget. So if they ask us to achieve savings, naturally they're going to turn to things like payroll, where they can achieve savings relatively quickly, rather than to go and try to squeeze money out from that 2-3% budget. So it's a smaller budget compared to the overall budget. The other problem there as well, and I'm sure many of you are probably already aware of these issues, if you're a data center operator in a public sector organization, it's highly likely that you do not pick up your electricity bill. So if any savings you achieve in introducing and procuring energy-efficient products and services are not going to be seen by you. Probably your electricity bill is picked up by facilities who will see that who will probably get the benefit. So there's some sort of split incentives here. And last but not least is this what I call not core business. And sadly, we've seen this across. I mean, I can give various examples. Let me pick this one. I always give that example from a police service somewhere in Europe. And that gentleman, who's the data center manager, went to his boss and told him, I mean, can we procure this solution? And if we do this, we'll be saving X amount of energy, which translates to Y amount of carbon emissions, which is going to save Z amount of trees. And the manager and the budget holder in that police force, I mean, they congratulated the guy for a positive initiative, but told him, you know what, sadly, we're not about saving trees, we're about saving people. Their KPIs and objectives are not aligned, so there's really no, which is fair. I mean, they have to. If at the end of the year a police department say that they have saved 10 trees because they cut down energy consumption, I don't think people probably be laughing. There is that issue there about the perception of energy saving as not being a measure or a business objective. So, and the last area, and not least by all means, is the lack of technical expertise. We've seen this already here now. We started by looking at all these different standards from ETSI, Sensenelec, ISO, best practices from Green Grid, from EU Code of Conduct, and various ones. There are loads of good practices and standards out there. And also, there are loads of technologies out there, and sadly, there is very little independent, trusted information around the real ROI on these technologies. So how would a public procurer who procure various things, not only data center products and services or ICT products and services, get their head around this? Okay, and that's why the Eureca project was funded. So the Eureca project is a Horizon 2020 project that was funded, that started around 18 months ago, 1st of March 2015, and will run until September next year. We have it's a consortium of partners from across Europe, mainly Germany, Netherlands, and the UK, and it was funded with the main aim of supporting public sector to uptake innovative, energy efficient, and environmentally sound data center products and services. Basically, it's to help people procure environmentally sound products and services. So, what is the project? I can summarize the project approach like so. First, what we do is work with an organization, a public sector body, and help them identify in the first place if they have any energy saving opportunities, okay, before we move on. We need to assess your situation and see if there's something could be done. There could be a situation where we tell you, listen, you have 3 servers, you really better go consolidate. Or we tell you, you're extremely good. I mean, there's very little we could enhance here, which is sadly is not very popular. But once we've identified and worked with you to identify the energy-saving opportunities, and the next step, we tell you how to avail of these opportunities and how to enhance your energy performance and what technologies could help you increase your energy performance. To identify energy-saving opportunities, we use something called Data Center Maturity Model from the Green Grid. It's like a diagnostic tool. It's a maturity model. And to advise you, we use excerpts from the EU Code of Conduct. It's a best practice of data center energy efficiency best practice document. Both are freely available and you can access online. Then, once we've done that, told you the opportunities and how you could enhance basically energy efficiency in these areas, we give you cost-benefit analysis to create a business case, to justify investment. We give you these tools. And most importantly as well, we help you navigate the market. We'll tell you what the market capability is, what providers are available in your area, and so on and so forth. And we do all of this with the use of 2 intervention mechanisms. One is the Eureca tool, and the other one is what we call the knowledge sharing and training platforms. So for the knowledge sharing and training events or platform, every quarter we hold an event in a different European city. So you could see here the different events start in London, then Riga, Latvia, then Turin, Italy, Dublin, Ireland, and then last month we were in Amsterdam. And you could see there's the tick next to Amsterdam, Paris, Stockholm. This means from that event we started delivering training as well. The next event is going to be in Paris next month, and that's going to be collocated with the data center world. So you're all welcome to attend. What we do at these events is we give talks, like similar to this one, and raising awareness. We also give training on things like EU Code of Conduct, and we've tailored our training to different stakeholders. So we have training tailored for data center managers, we have training tailored for procurers, we have training tailored for policymakers. In Paris, we also have a tool demo. So you had live tool demos. So you can go to a dedicated space area in the event and interact with one of our team members to take you through how to use the tool. Also, we also have networking sessions during our events where public sector procurers and data center managers, etc., can share best practices and success stories. For the Eureca tool, the Eureca tool is very intuitive. I'll give you the link to it at the end, so you can go and register. It's a free tool. Basically, what the tool does is initially ask you for a very basic question to assess your state. And once you've answered the question, if you realize you really know very little about your data center, like you don't measure electricity or you're not aware of temperatures or anything, then we point you to available resources from our project, training, events coming up you can attend, and expert support. This is all available for free for public sector bodies. And but if we collect the basic information and realize you've got the knowledge, good knowledge about your data center, then we move to the next step. And from the information we collected, we create a sort of a snapshot of, and we calculate your KPIs for your facility and give you a snapshot of your existing facility and where you stand now. Then, if you wish, you could create an assessment. You assess your facility, and this is where we take you through the various questions from the data center maturity model and ask you various questions with multiple choice answers to answer. And once you've filled all of this, you get a report, a comprehensive report. With at the top would have like an equalizer, like visualization, which shows you where the energy saving opportunities are, and also will identify, this is all linked in the tool, relevant areas of the EU Code of Conduct that could be applied to you, that you could benefit from. They tell you there's this one, that one you should be aware of, and you could follow. So you could go through this and read the report and then decide to procure A, B, and C based on the recommendations. And once you want to procure A, B, and C, the tool, what the tool does as well, it gives you case studies, like someone has who in your area or similar organization have procured similar stuff. So there will be like example RFIs, RFQs to avail from. We will point you to relevant regulations you need to be aware of given your geographical locations. We'll give you an idea what would be a good set of award criteria, and most importantly as well, we give you a market a snapshot of the market directory. So who services your area and who could provide you with these products in your region. This is, in a nutshell, what the Eureca project is about, what the tool is. As I said, we are looking to public sector bodies to work with, and even private sector data centers that host public sector providers. So we're looking for champions that are willing to work with us. We're looking for people who've done it and were successful and have procured energy-efficient products and services, and they want to share their success stories. For example, currently we're working with Northern Ireland, who consolidated, 50 data centers into 2 and achieved major energy reduction. So we're writing up this as a case study. They're sharing their RFQs, RFIs, and this is going to be packaged as a case study and disseminated through European Journal and various Eureca project dissemination channels. So if you're interested in this, please get in touch. If you're interested to host knowledge sharing and networking events at your organization as well, by all means. There's a link at the bottom where the Eureca tool is. You can go in and register. It's all for free. And there's a button at the end, the bottom right corner, that tells you give us feedback. And we really love to hear from you. If you think the interface could be better, if you think there's a good feature would enhance it, if it could integrate with X system, anything, that we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. And you could register on the Eureca website to get notifications about reports, technical reports. So there will be one technical report coming out on hardware refresh rates, and we'll also tell you when the events, the upcoming events, the date and location. Now, you could go to the website and click on workshops, and you could see all the workshops we held, and you could also look at the attendance list, and you could look at the presentations, etc., all available on the Eureca website. Thank you very much. That's about it. And as I said, you could register online. You could drop me an email, and we'd love to hear from you. Well, the project, as I initially said, is funded to support public sector, but we could really the technologies we came up with and all the knowledge is reusable across. And we're keen as well to talk with private sector data centers that host public sector services. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rahib. So you will hear silent claps from our viewers to both of you, Jaak and Rahib. Well done. Very stimulating talks, both of you. What we're going to do now, and this is your opportunity, listeners, to write any questions you'd like to ask regarding both Rahib and Jaak's talk. I'm going to move over to Rahib straight away. We have great timing still, so we have some questions for Rahib and both for Jaak. The ones for you, Rahib, you listed a series of events, clearly, and you've said people are free to join, naturally. Perhaps you could be a bit more specific on who you were expecting to come along, because you talked, I presume, you need to make a collection of case studies, like you gave the example of that fantastic consolidated example of the data centers in Northern Ireland. For our listeners, who should come along, and what do you expect them to give you in addition of what they're going to get out of the actual training themselves, just so we can be a bit more pragmatic on that part?
Thank you very much. Thanks. For the first question, who should attend? I mean, as I said, we are targeting various stakeholders, because to make this happen, increase energy efficiency uptake, etc., you need to address various stakeholders. So if you're a public sector procurer, policymaker, if you're a data center manager, as I said as well, private sector as well will benefit clearly from this. We welcome you in an event, and just to cut again, this is a free event. What would you get in addition to? There will be training on various aspects, general aspects like EU Code of Conduct, relevant regulations, etc. That's what we'll be delivering in Paris. There will also be a panel with experts, public senior government figures from Northern Ireland. Actually, the person who's done that exercise, the director of digital services for the UK government, will be there. There will be another senior figure from the French government, and there will be various industrial experts. They will be the chair of the EU Code of Conduct Committee for data center energy efficiency. So people can ask questions to the panel. For us, I mean, we use usually these opportunities as well to collect feedback on what we're doing, whether we're doing it right, whether there are stakeholder groups that we're missing, whether there are things we can do better. That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's good. I'm thinking also from our network, we do a lot of cloud-related projects. So if anyone on the call is perhaps a cloud service provider or a cloud customer, and maybe they've won some cloud procurement bids, I'm wondering whether they would be worth having along as target end users, so they can also understand and improve their energy efficiency through what you're trying to do with Eureca. And we have some contacts there, so we can perhaps put them in touch with you, Rahib. Okay.
Certainly. I mean, by all means. I mean, if people can get in touch and we can discuss what they have done, and there are good stories to capture, we'd love to do that. Okay. We're compiling a good database, and the important thing here is that the reason we need more, and we could never have enough success stories, is because many of these stories are tailored to a particular geographic location and context. And to have and to support people, we really need to have a diverse set of case studies. What works in Northern Ireland might not work in Latvia. I mean, we've already seen this. We're visiting all these cities. So yes, by all means, if you can reach out, encourage people to get in touch, and we'd love to hear from them.
Good, very good. Okay, Rahib, your second question. Obviously, one of ICTFOOTPRINT's KPIs is to also deliver a series of success stories. So clearly, I would presume that those who complete the Eureca tool, and you've analysed them, how many of those could then be obviously sent through to us, so we may be able to showcase on them through the ICTFOOTPRINT platform?
That's a good question. Now, for using the Eureca tool, but the default option is all the data they provide, all the assessments that take place are confidential. So it's their data. We only collect like average and general data for us to benchmark sectors, etc., but not individual case studies. Now, what we do, we could encourage people to share with us that if you've done a snapshot, done procurement exercise, came back to the tool, and that's what usually people do, take another snapshot, and the tool will calculate the benefits for you. And if you achieve benefits, and we encourage people, we keep sending emails around, encouraging people to share such success stories within our platform, and I think as well it makes a lot of sense for us to put them through your channel, and because we need more visibility for such success stories. So yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, good point on the data privacy, obviously, but that can be streamlined accordingly, of course.
Of course.
Right. Thanks, Rabi. Over to you now, Jaak. Thank you. Jaak, we have a couple of questions for you, so let's go back. All listeners, cast your mind back to Jaak's presentation with his examples via SurfLab and using GreenLab from the University of Amsterdam. Now, let's look at the bigger picture a bit. We're always talking about the digital single market, and one of the priorities moving forward is to actually drive forward a European open science cloud. Now, SurfSara, is one of the NGIs, the National Grid Initiatives, and which has, claimed this is now a best practice for it. So my question would be, why couldn't SurfLab actually go out and propose their energy efficiency product, if you like, to all NGIs across the EU? I think this would be pretty interesting. What do you think, Jaak? How feasible is that?
I think that's a very exciting idea. It offers a lot of potential. Maybe a little bit more explanation about the whole range of things that are happening in the SurfLab. It starts really at the lowest level. How much energy or how much power is your, memory or I/O unit using? And it aggregates this completely up to the application level, right? So these are a lot of steps in between. And they did this because they noticed discrepancy between what they were measuring and what they were expecting, looking at the available theory. Because the theory, of course, is generalized and it may hold for specific circumstances, but in practice, specific combinations of equipment, etc., different results. So that's why they duplicated this. And they aggregated this. So now they are collecting practices at all these different levels. And one part that's missing is actually the network level. If you would manage to link all the NGIs and get them engaged in these measuring activities for any purpose at all, then this last step could be included into the database.
Exactly.
Practices.
But one mechanism actually you could go to is EGI.eu and ask if they can help support it. They're the body that obviously interfaces with all the NGIs. I'll just put that in the presenter chat there. So that just came to mind now. But
I will definitely propose this to Patricia Lago from the for sure.
Exactly. And then the second question, a bit of an advice, Jaak, for an organisation. How much to look for savings from adopting specific products and software applications, or how much to look at reshaping processes, digitizing process in the overall internal organisation? I don't know if you want to give me perhaps a statistic between one and the other, which isn't easy, I know.
No, sorry. We'll do both, of course, but that's embedded in your question, right? Short-term products and software, long-term reshaping processes, and this on two levels. First, adopt green practices tomorrow, literally tomorrow, and start reshaping the processes next month. I don't know. But also in the long term, there is an end to how much energy efficiency can be increased physically. And with the current rate of energy efficiency increase, this could be, 2000, it could be in 10 years or 15 years, I don't know. There are physical limits to how much energy, at the minimum, you should use for changing a 0 to a 1. So if we've reached that limit, the only energy efficiency gains can come from reshaping processes and changing behavior. So the first answer is practices now and tomorrow and processes next week. The second answer is the first 16 years we'll still be optimizing the physical tools we have available, and after that, I don't know. But as it looks now, it has to come from.
Right, that's good. Thanks, Jaak. We have 10 seconds left. So I'd like to thank my speakers, thank the audience for listening in. You have your last slide. If you could do some of these things for us to stay tuned for regular updates, we would appreciate that. Register, contact us, get on our LinkedIn, get onto Twitter. You want to do a webinar? Contact us. We'll see clearly if it's related to what we're doing in ICT Footprint, and we can accommodate you. So thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful lunch, all of you, if you haven't eaten yet. And presentations will be available on our website underneath the webinar section where you can view and peruse and do what you want with them. Thanks ever so much, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jaak. Thanks, Rabi. Bye-bye. Bye.